Hello, welcome to this short webinar on Learning Mentor dispensations. My name is Sue Tyers. I'm EPA Assessor Manager, and Chris Olay is the Assessment Leader for Learning Mentor. So the background to the temporary flexibilities, Ofqual and IFATE have identified a range of standards whereby EPA components cannot be safely undertaken. Health and medical standards were first in the scope. Observation was the component whereby assessment could not safely be undertaken during COVID, as we weren't undertaking any face-to-face assessments. Task force was set up to address the issue, and Ofqual and IFATE have now confirmed changes to these standards, and today we're looking at Learning Mentor. So our EPA process is training provider uploads gateway evidence to ACE 360, which is the system we use for EPA. The independent endpoint assessor confirms gateway requirements have been met, and then changes from gateway to EPA approved. The booking tool is then completed by the training provider with the required date of the EPA. But please consider a little bit of additional time because the two observations have to be conducted before we can do the question and answer session. The clinical educator can then undertake two observations by completing the observation document and upload into ACE 360 in the shared area. And we request a minimum of 5 working days prior to the assessment for the Q&A takes place. So then that gives time for our endpoint assessor to be able to review the two observation documents. Once the question and answer session has been completed, allow 5 working days then for the results to be uploaded into ACE 360. So what is the flexibility? So Learning Mentor endpoint assessment. It's a temporary relaxation of observation of practice. So the learner mentor observations can be conducted by a clinical educational lead, witness testimony from apprentice's line manager, and a question and answer session with an independent endpoint assessor, which lasts around 40 minutes. So this is only for NHS-based assessments. However, this approach is not mandatory, and the apprentice retains the right to choose to wait until on-site assessments face-to-face can take place. If that is the case, then you need to put your apprentice onto a break in learning. Resits and retakes can be undertaken via the alternative method and/or pause to await the original observation method. There's no change to grading outcomes for those detailed in the current published assessment plan for the observation method. So Learning Mentor observation. So it's conducted post-gateway by a qualified teacher within the clinical education team. And qualified is identified as someone who has a qualification in teaching, such as postgraduate certificate in education, a PGCE, or a certificate in education or equivalent. The observer must be independent to the apprentice and must not have been involved in their on-programme learning. And evidence must include observation of practice, observation or apprentice mentoring, a minimum of 2 different learners totaling 120 minutes. So one could be 80 minutes, one might be 40 minutes, just as long as it makes up to the 120 minutes. Observations will be genuine mentoring sessions, no simulated sessions, so it must be actually what they're doing within their job role. It's likely to be one-to-one, but could also include a group session. And the observations will focus on the 11 knowledge and skills criteria and 5 professional behaviours that are mapped in the Learning Mentor observation assessment detailed within the published assessment plan. Observation evidence will be recorded within the assessment record or observation template produced by Pearson for consistency. The completed observation record will be submitted to Pearson by the training provider 5 working days in advance of the question and answer session being conducted. This allows time for the independent endpoint assessor to review the observations and identify questions they need to clarify what the information within. As required, Pearson can support the clinical education team with training and support in conducting the observation. And if this is something you feel you need further training with, then please email epadelivery@pearson.com and then we can organise that for you. The observer will not score individual KSBs, which are knowledge, skills and behaviours, or provide an overall grade or provide formal feedback to the apprentice of these observations to indicate an assessment outcome. Whilst the observer will not grade the observation assessments, should they observe practice which compromises the safety and or infringes other codes of practice, they should terminate the assessment and inform Pearson. In such instances, the independent endpoint assessor will review the evidence and potentially record a fail grade. The observer is not expected to be involved in the Q&A session. So, witness testimony requirements. The witness testimony is completed on a declaration form, which we have a template available in ACE 360 knowledge base, or can be supplied by the training provider. The witness testimony is to be written once the observation has been conducted to support the KSBs, which were unable to be observed fully due to lack of naturally occurring evidence. There are no word count requirements or restrictions, so rather the focus of the witness testimony is on covering the relevant KSBs as outlined above. As authentic evidence, the witness testimony must include date of when specific activities were witnessed. These do not need to be specific dates. They can be approximate dates, such as month, rather than the actual day. An audio or video recording will be accepted in place of a written testimony and in line with Pearson's declaration and other associated requirements. The training provider will submit the completed witness testimony to Pearson 5 working days in advance of the question and answer session. And the witness is also not expected to be involved in the question and answer session. So the requirements for a witness: the witness must work in a role equivalent to first line management of the apprentice or a level above. The witness must have worked with the apprentice for a minimum of 3 months during the course of their apprenticeship. And the witness is to provide name, job role, signature, and sign a declaration provided by Pearson. The question and answer session will be conducted between the independent endpoint assessor and the apprentice only. The session will last up to 40 minutes. With a 10% extra permitted at the discretion of the independent endpoint assessor. So if an apprentice is just starting to answer a question, we will allow them to complete that answer before we stop the session. Questions will be used by the IEA to clarify any sector specialist practices arising from the observation record or witness testimony, validate evidence submitted within the observation record and witness testimony, follow up on criteria pass on distinction, and where they believe the apprentice has not been given the opportunity to demonstrate they have achieved them. So what will the observation focus on? So it's actual mentoring sessions, so nothing simulated. Minimum of 2 observations with 2 different mentees, and we ask that you do a separate form for each one. and the total time for both of the observations is 120 minutes. Covering all KSBs, so it's 11 knowledge and skills criteria, 5 behaviour criteria. And please personalise the report, so you're using the person's name throughout. This is the employer assessor declaration. So the document is asking for the apprentice name, training provider name, the standard and the EPA component. So the standard is learning mentor and the component is the observation. And then identify the name of the person doing the observation, their job role, the signature and date. And then the next 5 questions, we just require you to put a tick in the box or a cross in the box if it doesn't relate. So you have a good understanding of the apprenticeship standard, including relevant grade and evidence requirements. Conducted post-gateway by a qualified teacher within a clinical education team. Confirm that you've worked in a role equivalent to first line management of the apprentice or above. And confirm that you've worked with the apprentice for a minimum of 3 months. And confirm that this is a true reflection of the apprentice's ability that you've observed in practice. There's then a box there you can put any further comments that you wish to put in, and just a quick clarification on what qualified means in regards to the person doing the observation. The actual observation document will look similar to this. You have 11 knowledge and skills criteria. So you will have the criteria. It will show you what is partly demonstrated and what is well demonstrated. And in the end box is where we ask you to put your commentary of what you've observed. So the more detail you can put, please do. Please don't bullet point, because that doesn't give us enough information to be able to get a clear picture of what the person has been observed doing. And then the other part will be the behaviours and criteria. Very similar to the knowledge and skills, it's just that this is just for the 5 behaviours. And again, write your comments in the end with as much detail as you possibly can. So where can you find all this documentation? The documentation is stored within ACE 360, and your training provider will have access to this within the knowledge base section. And the 3 documents are here. So you have information about the dispensation, and then you have a Word document for the observation, and you have a PDF editable document for the observation. So those are the 3 documents that you can download, and all you do is click on the blue arrow and that will download the document. So how do you organise the assessment? So once the clinical educator has completed their observation document, this needs to be uploaded to the shared area within ACE 360, and that will be done by the training provider. Planning will occur between your independent endpoint assessor and key contact, and possibly the apprentice, to arrange the suitable time and date to do the question and answer session. And then results will be available within 5 working days of the final part of the assessment being completed. Any questions you might have, if you'd like to email EPA delivery@pearsons.com, and then we'll get back to you with answers to your questions. Or if you would require a bit more training on completing the documentation, again, email EPA delivery@pearson.com and we can get that arranged for you. Thank you for your time. Thank you. Bye-bye.